Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Megan. Hi. Nice to have all of you on, and hopefully, I'll get to interact with a few of you this evening. I'm very impressed by your dedication and commitment to attending Ignite After Dark and being on right on time. That's just so you know. I'm impressed. I think it's a good sign. We're gonna wait just a minute or two. I don't know how you guys usually do it, but I'm gonna wait till till a few more people pop in. It looks like there's a couple in the waiting room. So in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen. So if anybody can just give me a little chat when you get to see my screen so that I know it's coming through okay. Let's see here. I'm going to do a slideshow. That look all right? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right, so we've got Carmen on and Catherine, Kim, Jess, Jessica, Sadika. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please let me know or correct me. And then is it Afifa? Am I saying your name correctly? All right, nice, cool. I love it. And I like your shirt, realtor. You can't be more clear than that. I can help you. I love it. Sometimes on these calls, I have music going, but it's only 5 p.m. my time. So I'm a market center team leader here in the market center in downtown Dallas. And we just wrapped up our first of the month meeting with the leadership team just to set the tone for our goals and our plans for the month. Hi, Bianca. Welcome to the call. So I'm excited to be here with you all, and we're gonna have fun. If we're gonna be on Zoom for a couple hours together, then I want to make sure it's as interactive as possible. Feel free to chat in. Feel free to take yourself off mute anytime when I'm here as the teacher. You guys, it's my understanding you've been in Ignite, like we're in session 16 tonight. So most of you have probably been through the other 15 sessions together. Is that right? Am I understanding how you guys have come together for this month and really been focusing on Ignite After Dark together? Cool. All right. A few others entering. I invited a couple of our agents as well here at Urban that might want to listen in. Tonight, our topic is working with buyers and sellers. So it's going to be a pretty broad topic, but we have a lot to discuss, and especially around communication. We're going to talk a lot about communication tonight and setting expectations. So I'm looking forward to that. And also just sharing a little bit about my own experience in real estate. Hearing from some of y'all, like I said, feel free to use the chat. I'll ask some questions from time to time and wait, to hear back from you guys. So, all right. Well, it is 5:04, so I say we get started. And if I need just a minute to let someone in or welcome someone new, then that's what we'll do. But as we get started here today, I want to ask about y'all's daily success system. So the daily success system in Ignite it's in your material at the end of every section. But I'm curious, like, have you guys been adding people to your database? Have you been making some contacts with your sphere of influence? Have you been looking at homes? And also, have you been doing your handwritten thank you cards or any follow-ups, right? Specifically to thank people for spending time with you. Would anyone want to be willing to share first? Actually, let's do this. Whose birthday is in October? Do we have any October birthdays? Anyone? Okay. Any November birthdays? You have to be honest. You gotta tell us the truth. No November birthdays. Okay. What about December birthdays? Anyone? No, man, that's surprising with 11 people on. My birthday's in August. So, all right, let's do January. Any birthdays in January? February? Is it because you don't want to share about your daily success system? Catherine's like, yes, that is exactly why. March, any March birthdays, April birthdays? All
I
right,
was going to say, this is kind of painful. I'll volunteer if no one wants to go. I'm a July baby, just so we know. I'm a
thanks,
July.
Catherine. Me and you are we're close. We're on the cusp together. I feel you. I hear you. All right. Sadika says April. All right, Sadika, would you mind taking yourself off mute? And would you be willing to share how your daily success system has been going and just like what your experience around it has been? And or if you're not comfortable taking yourself off mute, you could always chat in as well.
I'll be honest, I haven't really implemented it because I also have another job that I've been working in and I didn't have time.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So, what we're looking for with that question really, and I'm assuming I'm speaking mostly to new KW agents, is progress, not perfection, right? And so
Mhm.
just knowing, right, that there is only so much time in the day and only so much time in the week. And for you as a dual career agent, and probably for many of you as dual career agents, your time is so precious, and the intention that you put into your time is so important, about how can you not just check the box, right, but really be purposeful about the interactions that you have with people wherever they might be, at work or out and about at the store, on social media. That's a big place, right, that we can interact with people.
So I have gotten about 5 to 6 new leads, and about two of those I am expecting to I guess not leads, they're contacts and stuff because it's a two-way conversation, right?
Yeah.
So I have two that are thinking about making purchases next year, but I'm not really. I'm gonna put in the effort, but I'm not really banking on them.
Hey, you know what? Having those leads to follow up with it's part of the gig, right? That we
Yeah.
don't know if we're going to buy a month from now or sell a month from now or a year from now sometimes. And just being able to put them in our pipeline, being able to nurture them, follow up with them. In a sense, at KW, sometimes we just say like love on them, right? Take care of them. If they need something, be there for them. And make sure that you're offering value, market insights as well, so that when they are ready to buy or sell, that you're the person that's there for
Okay.
them.
Awesome.
Definitely. Jinan shared in the chat. Hey, Jinan, nice to see you on. He's been keeping up with his thank yous and follow-ups. His daily success routine does include 3 personal goals, 3 financial goals, and real estate goals. I try to hit all 9 every day. Very nice. And his birthday's in April, right? Like you, Sadika. So cool. Well, welcome everyone to Ignite Session 16. I won't make it painful too much anymore. My name is Megan Fife. I'm the Market Center team leader at KW Urban Dallas. I've got about 10 years behind me with Keller Williams and within real estate. So teaching, training, working with y'all is literally probably the highlight of what I get to do. I am on the path to being a KW University approved trainer, which is one of the reasons I got the invite to come hang out with y'all tonight. As an instructor and as a trainer, there will be a point in time here in maybe 30-45 minutes where I ask you to go on to kwueval.com and evaluate me as an instructor. And I'll send a reminder out or have a reminder out as well at the very end of class. But your reviews are important to me. You don't have to, rank me as anything other than what you feel and sense for the time together. Zoom sessions can be difficult in terms of engagement, but I want you to know that's what the chat's there for. I'd love for you to use the chat if you have access to it. And ask any questions as they come up. I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have a question and want to throw it in the chat, that'll be a little bit easier for me to come back to at a stopping point and make sure that we answer that your question. Does that work for everybody in terms of kind of how to use the chat and how to ask questions? There will be some times where I get to an aha screen where I'd love to hear at least one person share something that they learned during that moment or during that section. That way your insights can benefit other people as well. So an AHA, if you didn't know it, AHA, AHA stands for Agents Helping Agents, right? So that's what we do at KW is we share our AHAs because it's not just like my insight and what I learned, but how can what I learned benefit and help the people around me? All right. So far in Ignite, y'all have been through, like I said, the first 15 sessions here. You've been through being the real estate expert, being focusing on lead generation, adding in the lead follow-up elements to your business and into your using command and making sure you're really building out your follow-up system in a deep way. And this past week, we've been in the transaction. So you've been talking about winning the buyer, talking about winning the seller. Today, we're actually covering the section of material that's more about where you're going after they've hired you and before they've actually went under contract, right? So they've hired you. They're like, yes, I want to work with Afifa, right? I want to work with Catherine. And yet we're not actually under contract. We're actively working together, which when most people think about becoming a real estate agent, they think about this period of time. They think about servicing clients to go show homes, to sell homes, those kinds of things. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And because I already asked you about your daily success system, we're just going to dive right into today's agenda. So today we'll be going through the things that you see on the screen. Now, for those of you who have a participant guide, there's going to be some times that I direct you to use your participant guide and jot down the work or the work on the worksheet or the kind of the exercise that we're doing together. For those of you who maybe don't have a participant guide, I encourage you to still take notes, right? Working with buyers and sellers is what you've been trying to accomplish this whole time, right? We've spent all of Ignite so far talking about generating the lead, knowing your market, following up with your lead, converting the lead, right? Like Sadiqa was saying, I've met a few people, but they may not be ready to do something right now. Tonight's topic for Ignite After Dark is the topic that is, okay, now I have these clients. How do I make sure I'm serving them at the highest degree possible so that they, one, are satisfied and that they are happy clients and content clients, but that they also will send me referrals always, right? Because our business is referral based. So at the end of today's session, you're going to be able to do three things. If you want to take notes or jot down, you're going to be able to identify the key information about the success of your clients. So how do you succeed with your clients? What is that going to look like? And how are you going to know when you've achieved it? 2, employ strategies to assist your buyers and sellers with their decision making. Employ strategies to assist with decision making. I don't know about y'all's market, but here in Dallas, Texas, we have a lot of people who want to buy. We have a lot of people who even think about selling, but a lot of people who aren't willing to make a decision, right? And so what that means is that real estate agents actually become professional guides or professional consultants around helping someone actually make the decision to buy a home or make the decision to sell a home. Most recently, one of our agents I was talking with on the newer side, they have it's an elderly family who, the wife is in good health, but the husband just had a stroke and he's not doing well, and so she's having to make these decisions that previously he would have made. And so not only are we here to help them do the transaction, but we're here to help them look at all their options and be the best consultant for them for their decision making. It's unfortunate, but in this case, their kids are a little estranged and they don't really have that family support. So the agent I was working with today is going to get to be the hero, so to speak, right? They're going to get to be that person when they do their job well, that wife, whose husband just had a stroke, really looks back and says, I'm so grateful that I worked with that person or with that agent, because it wasn't just about his needs or the transaction. It was really about our whole process in selling this house, downsizing. They actually are looking to move out of state. They want to go somewhere in their last years where, that they've always wanted to live. And so they're making that happen, all with the help of this real estate agent. So helping people make decisions. And then number 3, by the end of today, we're going to be able to build a strong success foundation with your clients and your co-op agents. Working with co-op agents is sometimes under talked about in our industry, and we're going to talk about it as KW agents. Does anyone, and feel free to use the chat, but I'll give us about 30 seconds. Does anyone have any specific questions or things that you would like to get answered tonight about this topic of working with buyers and sellers and succeeding to the point of gaining referrals from them? Anything specific come to mind?
Hey, Meg, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Could you actually just discuss a little bit about like maybe the verbiage that needs to be used? I think sometimes just the way we say things can make a huge difference because I think when I first kind of came out the gates, I was scaring some of my potential clients versus giving them love. So
Yeah.
I think maybe just the actual verbiage, and I think that would be really helpful for myself at least.
Cool. Yep. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, I will make sure to cover that. I do want to point out, let me see if that book is on my desk here. I want to point out a book that you guys will like to have. Oh, here it is. It is on my desk. It's just on this side of my desk. This is a book that many of you will want to pick up. Some of you may already have heard about it from your team leader or from people that you work with there in the market center. But this book is exactly what to say for real estate agents. And it's by Phil Jones. It's a few others contributed to it as well. But Phil spoke as the keynote speaker at our mega agent camp down in Austin in August. And I was highly impressed by Phil and his way with words. And he, obviously is going to shout out his own book. So I went and picked up this book and have really been enjoying it ever since. So pick this book up for any and all of you who are looking to up your language game in terms of the words you use. And I know for sure that here in the material, Jen, there's a section where we actually break down some of the verbiage. Here's what I would say. Oh, thank you. Yes, I will put that in the chat. I will put it in the chat. Exactly what to say for real estate agents. That here, exactly what to say. Phil Jones. I'm going to give one phrase off the top of my head, right, that comes to mind when talking about being able to set up a precedent with our clients in terms of working with them, not for them, right, but working with them, is using a phrase like, once we agree to work together, ... right? Like being able to put into their mind the idea that we are going to be working together and I want to set the right expectations. So once we work together, Jenin, I'll be available for communication 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I actually don't, work after 8 p.m. or I don't take calls after 8 p.m. in respect for my family. Is that something that that works for you? Right. And so I say that because like that phrase, once we begin working together, you can kind of insert different things after that set the tone for that. But like I said, there'll be other examples that we cover during this session. So I'll make sure that we point those out as they come up. Any other questions? All right. Well, if you do have them, just throw them into the chat and we'll go from there. All right. This is a quote straight from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Virtually every top agent or top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart and place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service. So this isn't something that happens as a result of being a top producing agent. This is what makes the top producing agents the top producing agents. They start and end their day with thinking about how they can serve their people and how they can serve their clients. So let's dig in here with the success with clients. A lot of what we're talking about is being able to create a transparent and a smooth conversation and a smooth transaction. A transparent communication style between you and your client is going to avoid a lot of pitfalls that you may run into if you try to keep more stuff close to your chest. So success with clients is really all about great agent and client communication. In fact, I would dare to say and go to the degree of saying that success with your client is entirely surrounding communication. There's no such thing as offering good service without good communication. And that there's no such thing as succeeding with your client if you don't have good communication with them. In fact, a lot of real estate business that we do is really just communicating. So whether you're more of a written communicator, a verbal communicator, just know that that's what you're entering into, right? Is a communication type of a relationship. So when you're communicating value to your sphere, to your clients, to your farm, to your database, there's some things that you want to keep in mind. And I think here in your participant guide and there on the screen, you're going to see these 4 things. And then we're going to dive into each about kind of how can we, once again, use our words and our communication to bring these 4 things into the forefront of our relationship with our clients or with our clients. So I will say it is very rare that you could ever over communicate, right? In fact, I would say over communicating with your clients is not a thing in real estate unless you are calling them without some value. So one, great agent-client communication provides a strong foundation for a sustaining relationship. I think all of us would say if we have a significant other, we have kids, right? We have parents that we communicate with. It's important. And we know that there's a certain element of we're not going to have a strong foundation unless we have good communication. Number 2, good communication between us and the client is going to set and manage expectations proactively throughout the transaction. So this is about taking proactive action instead of reactive action. Number 3, it's going to create peace of mind for your clients. Who wouldn't want that? And then number 4, it's going to enhance your credibility. Now, I will share something about the peace of mind, okay? Great agent-client communication may create peace of mind for your client, while internally for you as a person, you're not necessarily at peace. Now there's ways to practice that, right? I learned meditation probably 4 years into selling real estate, and I wish I would have learned it earlier because I got a lot of, kind of things that would happen during a transaction that would really create a lot of chaos for me in my head. Trying to manage that with the client is one thing, trying to manage it with myself is another. So I share that because good communication is going to put your client at peace, and then you're still going to have to work on your part of that, right? There's nothing like, trying to go to a Friday evening dinner or something and being in the middle of negotiations, right? Where you're like having to navigate, okay, do I do this now or do I ask them to wait? I mean, what does time is of the essence really mean in this scenario? Can I eat my dinner or do I need to take care of it now? So I don't know, for those of you who maybe have had a client or two, I'd be curious, like, have you already felt some of that? Have you not felt some of that? Because if you stay in real estate long enough, you may feel some of that depending on how the market is going. Speaking of, I think this would be a good time. If you wouldn't mind just chatting in, like, how long have you been in real estate and how much, I guess, of Ignite have you finished so far? Like, are you new to this section of Ignite or have you been here the whole time? I'd love just to kind of get an idea of where everybody's at. Just chat that in when you can. Cool. Jess has been here since, been in real estate since August and here the whole time. I love it. Love it. Love it. You guys, I even have an Ignite mug. Look at this. Our market center made these little Ignite mugs for us. So that's kind of cool. Carmen got licensed in July, been to all of Ignite so far. Awesome. Kim said April of this year, has been here the whole time. Love it. Carmen got licensed in July. Oh, okay. Jeanette, this is your 3rd year in real estate. Very cool. Love. Thanks for being on, Jeanette. Bianca, a few months. Cool. All right. I'll keep an eye on the chat. Afifa, licensed in July. Love it. Joined KW in September and been to all of Ignite. Very, very cool. If you haven't responded, go ahead and chat in. We're going to jump to this conversation about the 3 levels of service. Now, you guys actually have already talked about this at some point in your Ignite series. The 3 levels of service are straight from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and they are exactly the things that, speaking of top producers, right? They embody that sense of purpose in terms of service. They embody these 3 things underneath that service. One, they have that purpose and they choose to be masters of service. So if I was taking notes, that's what I'd write down next to purpose. Masters of service. I'm someone who is here to serve my clients. I'm here to serve the community. I'm here to serve my sphere. I'm here to serve my colleagues. Anyone can do a transaction, right? And in fact, with the way technology is evolving, and data is being shared and exchanged and these kinds of things, it may not be unheard of for someone to have a contract written for them on behalf of an AI program or something like that, right? But what AI can't do is be a master of service, right? The interactions that you have as a human with that person are going to uncover what they actually need service in, and then you're going to come in and fulfill that. So great service begins with a clear purpose for why someone would work with you. Why would someone work with you? Number two is the second level of service here is the value proposition. And the value proposition has a lot more to do with the way you embody your purpose, right? So if your purpose is to be a master of service, if your purpose is to help homeowners level up their financial wealth through real estate ownership or whatever that looks like for you, then the value proposition is the more tangible aspect to how you deliver that. In fact, it is a specific set of services that you will provide your client. So I just gave an example a few minutes ago. I'm available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I respond within 1 hour. That could be a part of your value proposition. Your voicemail, your email responder could say, I'm available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I respond within an hour. If it's over an hour, please call the office because it's an emergency, right? That's a value proposition because you're making a promise about what you're going to give, what kind of service you're going to give them. Maybe one of your value propositions is you can help your clients sell their home off market. Maybe a value proposition is you have access to a group of investors that you have in your database. Maybe a value proposition is, I have an agent here who, for the right price home, he sends his clients off in an Airbnb out of the city and says, go relax for the weekend. I'm going to hold open houses while we take offers on your listing. That's part of his value proposition, right? So basically, you're translating your purpose into the set of services that you're going to offer. And then number 3 is the fiduciary level of service. And the fiduciary level of service is where you're placing your client's interest above your own. I don't know about Maryland, but do you use that word in your licensing school, like your pre-licensing? Do you have the word fiduciary being presented to you as a requirement, basically, as a licensee? Okay, Carmen says yes in all caps, yes. So you are a fiduciary in your state, and you are a fiduciary for your clients. And what that ultimately means, if that's the case here in Texas too, what that ultimately means is, and we've got New York as well. Okay, cool. Is that we put our client's interest above our own, which means we don't get them into a situation just so we can earn a commission check. We put their needs above our own. Highly productive agents, they provide the service and the value all with this in mind. They bring a certain level of care and trust to the relationship. Functionary versus fiduciary. Functionary is someone who is going to be, well, this was also discussed earlier. Does anyone remember specifically what functionary versus fiduciary is all about? I would like to give it a stab. All right. Well, functionary versus fiduciary is a functionary has a specific set of tasks that they need to do for their client. Whereas the fiduciary is a high trust kind of relationship with the client, right? Functionary is, hey, can you just write that contract up for me? We've already negotiated the deal. I just need someone to write it up. That's a functionary. A fiduciary has that level of trust. And it really helps you earn the right to be the expert of choice as well. Because your clients do have choices about who they're going to be in business with as a real estate agent. And the more you can prioritize that fiduciary duty of care, trust, candor, comprehensive approaches to their situation, not just a one solution kind of a person, but you're really looking at their needs as a whole. Inside of your participant guide, there is a chart from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent that details out the differences between the functionary and the fiduciary. And that particular conversation in, our space as real estate agents, you could get away with being a functionary, and yet no one is going to send you referrals, right? If you choose to be the fiduciary and really build that into your service, then people begin to trust you and begin to be able to build that relationship with you. I'm letting somebody else in here. All right. Let's see here. Dual agency. Tell me about y'all's states. New York, Texas. I know Texas, Maryland. Any other states represented? Do you allow for dual agency, or does your state allow for you to represent both the buyer and the seller in your transaction? Catherine says yes. Oh, wait, I think so. Let's see. Yes in Florida. Yes in Pennsylvania. Sadiqa said no. Okay. Looks like more often than not, the state is allowing you to be a dual agent. I know Texas, it is. Yes, in Texas, you can be a dual agent and represent both the buyer and the seller. What you cannot do is forget your fiduciary commitment to your client. And you're like, how can I do that? How can I represent their interests above my own in both scenarios, right? Like if I'm representing the buyer and the seller, how am I supposed to be able to do this? Well, you'll actually find that though it's legal, it's not necessarily advisable if you're going to be someone who holds on to that particular level of service at the highest degree. And this is a sensitive subject for some, but it's important because your professionalism and your reputation is more important than anything else, right? You want to be able to build a long-term career, not just have a good year. And your year might look one transaction better if you get to represent both sides, right? You might have one more commission check or one more transaction unit, but you may not be able to have a good career if you aren't able to represent both clients at the highest degree. So though it's legal, it's actually not advisable. Now, each state is going to look a little different because in Texas, you can be what we call an intermediary. Maybe that's a word that some of your states use. You can be an intermediary with appointees, which means Jenin is here in Texas. If Jenin has a listing and a buyer approaches him, Jenin could say, yes, we can represent you as the KW Urban Dallas brokerage, but I'm actually going to appoint another agent to represent you specifically so that we can make sure that both clients are represented to the highest degree. Does that make sense? So that's how Texas is with the intermediary with appointees. Anyone else have any knowledge about how your dual agency works or what might be a better solution for representing both sides? If you have questions about that, make sure just to run it through your market center leadership, right? Maybe your broker support team, your transaction coordinator may even know something about that. But there are some things that can go wrong with dual agency. One, you have to ask yourself, am I really prepared to negotiate against myself? Because that's technically what you're doing. And then two, would you ever go to court? Asking yourself the question, would you ever go to court against someone who shared your attorney? The answer is probably no. So really, it's the best practice to not work both sides of the deal. And if you do, to find a way to appoint another agent within your brokerage to be able to represent that client. That way you can offer expertise and honest advice, because we're talking about service tonight, right? Working with buyers and sellers. Dual agency is just one of those touchy subjects that if you want to go above and beyond the minimum standard, which I hope all of you do to be professionals, that you would find someone else to represent that person. All right. Okay, this is kind of where we dig into why, how, I should say, not why, how you use great communication in your relationship with your clients, and what some of those expectations are. So this is in your participant guide. We've talked about the 3 levels of service. So those were the what, right? Purpose, value proposition, fiduciary. Those were the what. Now we're going to talk about the how. How do we deliver on those 3 things? Number 1 is to set expectations. So this is probably the most challenging part about being a brand new agent is you want to be the expert, but you don't have the resume that makes you feel like the expert, right? It's also why you go through Ignite. It's also why you go through these sessions, because in order to demonstrate your expertise, you need to be educated. So just think, if you're taking notes or have your guide there, in order to deliver on great service, number 1, I need to set expectations. By the way, expectations for the most part, homeowners and home sellers, they don't know. Now, there is the world of TikTok, there is the world of education online now, but they still only sell a house or buy a house every 5 to 7 years mostly. So you and I are going to breathe and eat it every single day in terms of what is happening in a real estate transaction. So we don't want to make any assumptions about what the homeowner or the home seller know about the real estate process. So in order to demonstrate your expertise, you're going to educate your clients on the realities of the market. Number 1 rule of good communication and good service: set the expectations up about the realities of the market. And you also need to set expectations for the process of the way you're going to communicate with them, right? How are you going to communicate with your buyers and sellers throughout the week, throughout the month? Are you going to have a weekly check-in call? Are you going to have a daily check-in call? Are you going to be texting together or hopping on the phone together? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer in person? What are the communication expectations? And you want to start that from the very beginning. Number 2, you want to review the transaction process with them. This is for all clients, by the way, not just buyers, not just sellers. We're getting into the more practical side of this. And so I hope that some of you, who either go back and watch these recordings, because I know these are being recorded, or those of you who are on here live, are beginning to think about, how could I implement this best communication practice in with my clients from the very beginning? So when you review the transaction process, you're educating, right? You're educating your clients on what is going to happen once they go under contract. And you may have already talked with them about this at one point in the past. But I'll tell you that when there's a lot of information coming at you, you can tend to, I'm talking to the people who have been going through Ignite these past few weeks. You're like, a lot of information. Yeah, it's a lot of information. When a lot of information is coming at you, only some of it's going to stick. Okay. You're only going to remember some of it. So with that being said, it's important to review the transaction process again, once you actually start working with these clients. Now, it may mean that if you work with them for over a month or 2 months, you may need to revisit this transaction process just to update them again that this is going to be happening. People don't remember everything we say the first time around, and that's perfectly okay. We're going to say it again and build it into our system and into our process. By the way, some of the things you see here on the screen are part of the transaction process. Depending on your state, you may have 1 or 2 other things added to this, but for the most part, this is pretty standard. Partner with an agent, get pre-approved for a loan, set the criteria, find the new home, make an offer, negotiate the terms, go under contract, have any vendors come out to the property that need to come out, negotiate any inspections, have the appraisal done, do a pre-close preparation section, right? As far as like, let's get you packed up from your old house, or let's make sure that your cash is ready for your down payment and all of that. And then you've got your closing and then the post-closing. Number 3, you're going to set time expectations. So if you're setting up a search for a buyer, at this point, you should set up expectations about, what's happening in terms of your ability to show houses, right? What's the time expectations going to be around showing houses? What's the time expectation going to be around when you send them houses that they may want to see? What turnaround time do you ask them to bring back to you? Right? Like get back to you. Same thing with sellers. You're going to set time expectations with sellers. When you first start working with sellers, you had that class a couple nights ago, winning with sellers. When you first start working with them, you're going to set up the expectation that those first few weeks are really important. But let's say you have the listing appointment or the buyer or the listing consult, you go and they get the things ready around the house to list. You come out to take photos 3-4 weeks later. They may have forgotten about what you said about how important those first few weeks were. So just setting up the time expectations from the beginning is really important. Setting up expectations around being flexible is really important, both with buyers and with sellers. So depending on the time period that you're in, the buyers themselves, may need to go see a house the moment it comes on the market if you're in a really hot seller's market. If you're in not as hot of a seller's market, then you may have some extra time, right? You may be able to have a house come on the market today and go see it on Saturday instead of needing to go see it today. So here's kind of the point I want to just make sure comes across for this particular part of communication. Most people are not used to making such a big decision in a short period of time. So what your job is as a decision maker or a decision facilitator is to help people feel confident all along the process, so that when they do need to make a decision during a short period of time, that they're able to jump on it, jump into it, and feel confident about the decision that they're making in that short period of time. I see someone or a couple people actually asked for the participant guide. Can I send it over? Yes, ma'am, we sure can. I'm going to do that actually right now. Let's see here. I'm going to stop. No, I don't want to stop share. I want to go here, and then I want to go, well, maybe not. I know where I can go. Got night. Thanks guys for being flexible. We're taking like a little 90-second hiatus here. Ignite participant guide. Will you put your email in the chat for those of you who need this participant guide? Scanning. All right, that looks like it's downloading. All right, we'll go to Bianco@aol.com and then Jess Leon at kw.com. Downloads. Here we go. No big deal. Ignite participant guide. All right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. Move this, go back here, here. All right. So, and this is in the participant guide there in session 16. So, the sellers and the buyers, they don't know how fast or how slow they need to be moving. They're really relying on cues and expectations from you about that, right? Because they're not keeping up with the market, you are. So, do you expect them to respond to, if you're representing the seller, do you expect them to respond to all offers that come in within 24 hours or less? If you're the buyer, a buyer's agent, are you expecting your buyers to make a decision about a house, whether they want to make an offer on it or not, within 24 hours? Not that they couldn't come back later and if it's still on the market, choose to do so. But let's say you went out and toured 4 or 5 houses on a Saturday morning, it's helpful to put some time expectations around letting them know these houses may not be on the market. So if you are interested in putting an offer on one, I just would need to know by noon tomorrow, right? Or something like that. Remember, you're always staying in communication. I know I've said that 100 times, right? But you're always staying in communication with them to set up any changes as well that might be happening. Number 4, in terms of just service and being able to offer this service through your communication, is setting up document expectations. So my best practice for my business, my real estate business started in 2013. I was rookie of the year that year. I sold about 5 million in sales volume. I took a lot of pride in the document section, so to speak, right? I wanted to make sure that my clients and my prospects knew what they were signing. And so during our consults, I would sit down with a buyer, sit down with a seller, go over the listing agreement together. If it was a buyer, I'd go over the buyer rep agreement, but then I would actually go over the actual contract, right? In Texas, it's called the 1-to-4 contract. I'm sure all of you have, a name for your home contract. And we would actually go through paragraph by paragraph what the contract would look like even if they weren't signing one right away. And so you may have done this at your consultation with them, and every now and then you're going to have to revisit that during the months or the weeks that you're working with them. It's not unheard of, just so everyone here knows. I know some of you have been in business for a little longer, so you know, but it's not unheard of to have a client who's looking to buy a home, and maybe they never buy a home, or they don't over the course of a month or two. They go on a hiatus, and then they come back and say, okay, now I'm ready, right? So you may want to revisit the actual documents and the contracts that you are going to have them fill out when they're ready to make an offer. With that being said, in addition to the contract itself, what are some other documents that you have in your state that you may need to review with your client? Just type a couple in the chat, or one that you can think of in the chat. Or you're welcome to take yourself off mute and just chime in. Any other documents that you'd want to set expectations around with your client that would involve their specific transaction? I'm thinking things like appraisal waiver. I don't know if any of your states have appraisal waivers, but Texas does. Appraisal waiver, property disclosure, things like lead-based paint disclosures, right? Just making sure that your clients understand the documents that they're going to be signing when they go to buy the house. Ultimately, what you're doing on setting document expectations is you're future pacing. That's a good word to jot down. It's like, I'm future pacing. What are the documents my client's going to need to sign? And how do I make sure that they feel confident about those documents before I ask them to sign it? Number 5, set communication expectations. I referred to this earlier. Maybe you're someone who doesn't take calls on Sundays, right? Maybe Sundays are like your day off, right? Or Sundays are kind of a day that you set apart for yourself, your family, spiritual practice, whatever that looks like. And so, being able just to tell your clients directly and clearly from the beginning, hey, you won't be able to get a hold of me on Sundays unless there's a time is of the essence kind of situation that I need to handle. Same thing with evening hours or early morning hours. You want to be sure here to not just say what you want and how you want to communicate, but also how does your client want to be communicated with, right? Do they prefer text? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer phone calls? Do they have a time? Many of you probably have ran into this already. Do they have a time where they're really busy and they can't talk, right? So maybe they're at work, like some of you, or maybe they have homework and baths from 5 to 8 p.m., right? Like these are real things that families are dealing with, right, Afifa? And so these are things that we want to be cognizant of, not just for ourselves, but also for our clients. We want to be understanding of their situation and not have them be on our communication timeline, right? If they say, hey, for the most part, 5 to 8 is a really tough hour for me to talk, then you say, okay, great. Would it be more helpful to talk like during your lunch hour at work, or would it be helpful to talk after 8 o'clock in the evening? And then you get to decide, where do you fit into their schedule? It goes both ways, definitely. The communication and the expectations that you set, it goes both ways. I have an agent here, Emerald, who is our number 2 or 3 agent right now. Her voicemail says, if you're calling before noon, I am in my lead generation hours, finding buyers for my sellers and helping sellers find buyers for their house. Please leave me a message and I will call you back this afternoon, right? So for her, she doesn't actually take inbound calls before noon because she's so focused on getting her lead generation done in the morning. So you can just, as long as you're setting up those expectations, people will follow suit, right? It's only when you don't set up the expectation that they don't know, right? They're like, oh, what do you mean you don't, you tell them, oh, I don't answer calls before 12, and they just don't understand. But if you can set that from the beginning, it's a little bit better. All right, set contingencies. This is also part of that service that we're going to be offering, right? So what this really is about isn't your contract contingencies. This is the contingencies that you're going to need as an agent. Maybe you're headed to a bachelorette party this weekend and you're going to be completely off the grid, right? It's like, I'm not answering my phone. I'm not going to be on Wi-Fi. I'm planning on having just a really good time with my friends. You want to be able to tell your client, hey, I'm not going to be here, but I've designated someone else in my office or, one of my colleagues and my associates to be available for you. So that's really what setting contingencies is. You want to make sure that any information that you have about your availability is made clear on the MLS if you're not going to be available. Make sure that you have a designated contact. Maybe if it is a co-agent, like a listing agent or a co-op, not co-op agent, but an agent in your office that you're partnered up with, that's awesome. If it's, more of like your transaction coordinator that they should contact, or your assistant, maybe your one of your just the agent concierge in the office or the front desk at the office. Put those notes into the MLS if you're actually going to be unavailable. That way, all the co-op agents who are looking at your listing know how to get a hold of you. Number 7, set up-to-date expectations or market expectations. We have people from New York, we have people from Florida, we have people from Texas. We're all over. So I am curious if you guys wouldn't mind chatting in, like, what would you say your market is doing right now? Is your market leaning more toward a buyer's market or leaning more toward a seller's market? Buyer's markets would be that there's more inventory available, and seller's markets is there's less inventory available. Catherine is in a seller's market right now. Maryland, seller's market. Nice. Seller's market in Atlanta, seller's market in Pennsylvania. Love it. That's awesome, guys. It's great because a seller's market is fun to play in. Typically you can take a buyer out and put an offer on something. They may be competing against other offers, but if they set up a good enough offer, then they're probably going to get a house sold, they're probably going to buy a house. Of course, for listing agents, sellers markets are awesome because you just have to put the house on the market, wait for the offers to come in, right? Afifa says they do have a lot of new construction in the works in Atlanta. So that's kind of how Dallas is. Dallas is still technically a seller's market, but we are seeing a lean more toward the trend, I should say, is toward the buyer's market. We're not there yet, but that's where we're trending, which means that we have some houses listings sitting on the market a little longer than they were. So with that being said, part of our service to our clients is making sure we're setting up-to-date market expectations. If we've been on the market 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, and we don't have an offer or a contract yet, it may be a good time to have an up-to-date market expectation. If you're out with a buyer and you had a consult with them 3 months ago, you need to set up-to-date market expectations with them. I use, and this is just kind of a practical tool that some of you may appreciate or enjoy, I use a program called Trends in my MLS. So I'm going to share it with y'all really quick. Some of you are going to have different MLSs. Okay, this is our MLS here in Texas is Matrix. Does anyone else share Matrix as an MLS? Afifa does. Catherine does. I see Jeanette shaking her head. Maybe a different MLS. Yeah, Jess does. Now, I don't know if this goes right with Jeanette with other MLSs. I'm assuming each MLS has something similar, but we've got a trends application, okay? And the trends are just one of my favorite things to look at because I can go pull all the comps and all that. That's great, but I kind of want to see the trend, right? I want to see historically what has been happening in certain areas. So like, for example, if I use our zip code here at the Market Center, 75219, right now I'm looking at sales price median, and you can see it goes up and down all the time. But right now we've seen a sharp decline from August to September in the median sales price in this zip code. I can go to homes for sale, and I can see it was kind of low in 2022, or it went down from late 2020, basically, all the way to early 2022. The inventory of homes for sale was going down. Then it started going up just a little. Then it started going down again. Now it's starting to inch back up, right? We're not anywhere close to pre-pandemic or even pandemic levels in terms of inventory in this zip code, but it is starting to go back up a little bit, which is good news for buyers, maybe not as good news for sellers. Daniel, I accessed this site. It is an MLS software. So depending on your MLS, you may have this or you may not have this. but my MLS has an application called Trends. And I can click on trends and then put in either cities or zip codes and see the different trends in different categories for that area. So that for me, Daniel, is just inside of the MLS dashboard. I'm not sure exactly how that will look for every single agent here, but hopefully your MLS offers something similar to that. It's really helpful when you're looking at setting up to-date market expectations because you can kind of show that to your client easily. It's a visual, so it makes a little bit more sense, right, than just words or numbers. And you can say, hey, even though we were really low on inventory when we listed this, ever since we listed it, we've actually been increasing in inventory and ours still isn't sold. So that means we're competing with more homes today than we were 2 months ago. And I feel like it's important that we get our house under contract or this house under contract before even more homes become available. Because more homes coming available, the supply goes up. If demand stays the same, the prices are going to drop. You might check with your market center tech trainer or your broker in your office or your team leader and see if your MLS has something like that, if you're not aware of it. Number 8, this is the last of the best practices, so to speak, on setting expectations with your clients. Use your KW Command account to do that. It's really, really easy to put together in your KW opportunities or your command opportunities a client update email. So the client update email is an underutilized or unused a lot of times feature of command, but you can actually have it send a email blast out every day to your client, buyer or seller, saying, here's the 3 things Sadika did for me today. Here's the 3 things Jeanette did for me today. Here's the 1 thing Catherine did for me today, right? And it's as you're completing tasks in the command opportunity, it will send those daily update emails out. And then, of course, your smart plans, right? Having a smart plan for active buyers, having a smart plan for active sellers is helpful. You can have it remind them, of different things to do around the house. Like if it's a seller, hey, make sure to leave the lights on when you leave the house, right? Make sure to keep the yard mowed while we're on the market. You can use the smart plans to do a drip campaign, so to speak. Maybe every 3 days they get an email from you, or every week they get a motivational something from you so that they don't lose heart if they haven't sold their house yet, right? So use command to build out your smart plans, use command to build out your command opportunities. With that being said, make sure that you're asking for referrals and reviews during this time. When they are actively working with you is one of the easiest and best times to ask for a referral. You don't have to wait until they close. It's a misnomer. It's a myth. You don't have to wait until they close to ask for a referral. You can ask for a referral right now. And so putting that into your smart plan, putting that into your command opportunities is a good thing to do. Also in your participant guide is this graphic here and kind of a breakdown of ways to think about asking for referrals or gaining referrals. 1 is to provide value, right? 2 is to ask for help, ask for the referral. And then 3, to make sure that you're rewarding the behavior of sending you a referral. I keep some Starbucks gift cards here in my drawer. Every time a referral comes my way, I grab a thank you card. Thank you, Sadika, for the referral of so-and-so. I can't wait to visit with them and meet with them and help them. Here's a drink on me, right? And I throw a $5 Starbucks card in there. That's an easy way to let them know, even if this client doesn't buy a house or sell a house, you referred them to me and I appreciate that, right? And so throwing that $5 Starbucks card in the note, the handwritten note is really helpful. So from the beginning, and this is something Jen asked earlier, like what language do we use? From the beginning, you may say something like this. Throughout this process, I'm going to give you amazing service and earn your trust so that you'll want every member of your family, friends, and work group to work with me. Would you be willing to share that? If I deliver that service, would you be willing to share my name with your friends and colleagues? And so just planting that seed, so to speak, right? Throughout this process, I'm going to give you such great service that it's going to be inevitable, right? Basically, that you want to share my name with your family, your friends, and your colleagues that may need to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. this is a stat you might want to write down. 68% of all agents, 68% of all sellers said that they would use the same agent again, right? That they really enjoyed working with that agent, that they wanted to use that agent again, and that they will use that agent again. 32% didn't because they couldn't remember the agent's name, right? And so by you being more of a word of mouth kind of business, by you being a more referral based real estate agent, your name is going to be being shared all the time. Oh, you got to call, right? You got to call. You have to call Jess. You've got to call Bianca. You've got to call Jessica. These are things that mega agents, they get used to, but they built the foundation for it early on in their business. Who doesn't know an agent maybe that's been in the neighborhood or in the city or in the community for a long time, and they kind of get their name thrown out there, right? When things are needed and da da da. That's the reputation that you are building for yourself. Okay. The reputation you're going to build for yourself is you've got to call Afifa, right? Or here, like, let me have Afifa reach out to you, right? And everyone's going to know who Afifa is because you provide value, because you offer help, and then you reward people as they're sending referrals over to you. So it's not unheard of to say things like, I rely on referrals, right? Let people know that you don't like just running marketing ads and meeting complete strangers. You rely on referrals. You want to work with referrals. You enjoy working with people that are like your client, right? And you can give your client like a kind of a kudos or a pat on the back, like, hey, I really enjoyed working with you and I'd love to work with more people like you. Is there anyone, who do you know that I should know, right? Who do you know that I should know that's looking to buy or sell in the next year? And then, of course, that reward aspect is really, really good. All right. We're doing okay? Yes. I'm going to take a sip of water here. I will tell you, this Ignite session had more slides than any other Ignite session I had had. So if it sounds like I'm running through it, it's kind of because I am, because it's like there was no way 2 hours was going to be enough to get through this material. But I'm committed to doing it, and I appreciate you guys for being here for the ride and for learning along the way. So we don't want just referrals. Okay, referrals are amazing. We love referrals. Referrals are, hey, my friend needs to buy a house. Can you talk to her, right? We also want reviews. And so we can actually begin to ask for reviews even while we're working with the buyer and seller before they go under contract or before they go to the closing. Question for y'all, when right before you hopped on, by the way, a couple of your Market Center leaders who are kind of putting together this Ignite session were on. And before they handed it over to me, they were talking about going to sushi tonight. Oh, no, one of them is going to sushi tomorrow night, and the other is going to a Peruvian restaurant tonight. And I guess my question to y'all is, when was the last time you visited a new restaurant? And did you look up the reviews before you went out to the new restaurant? Okay, yes. Afifa says 100% yes. I looked up the reviews because that's what we do. That's what we do. We even yesterday Sunday I was going shopping. I wanted to go to Nordstrom Rack. Okay, that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to see what kind of deals Nordstrom Rack had. Does anyone have a Nordstrom Rack around them? It's like it's not a Nordstrom. It is, but it's not. It's kind of like I don't know, like the backstock or something of Nordstrom. Well, there's a few different ones throughout Dallas, and on Google Maps, I typed in Nordstrom Rack, and I wanted to find the one with the best reviews. I was willing to drive further to a Nordstrom Rack that had better reviews because I wanted to make sure I actually had a successful trip, right? That I didn't go and just waste my time looking for clothes that I couldn't find and So our reviews in real estate show up in a few different places. They're going to show up on Zillow. They're going to show up on your Google business page. They're going to show up on your Facebook business page. They may show up on a Yelp account. They may show up on realtor.com. They may show up on your local MLS's website, like here in Dallas. Like you can go to the MLS for Dallas, and each agent has a profile, and you can review and rank your agent there. You may have reviews, on Homes.com. Okay. Homes.com is a place that you as an agent now have an account. Whether you've activated it and all that stuff is up to you. But agents, you want to build out your online presence, and you want as many of those 5-star reviews as possible to be on those different platforms, right? Even having 4 to 7 on each is potentially better than having 50 on Yelp, right? Just so that you have the presence everywhere. I would, from my coach, or one of my coaches, I should say, Shannon Steer, she would say that your Google business page is the place to drive reviews. Because Google is so powerful, it's connected to all the AI things now. There's so much going on with Google that if you haven't opened up your Google business page yet, and for some of you, you literally just got licensed, so it's totally like you're on track. You're not too late to opening your Google business page, but you're going to want to go do that. It's free. You can open up a business page with Google at no extra cost. You can put your market center as the address, and you can start driving reviews to your Google business page. So it would be like, Sadiqa Avina at KW with your market center address and, but your phone number, right? And your website and things like that. We do encourage you to ask for reviews at this stage of the transaction. So even just with this question here, if your purchasing or selling experience exceeded your expectations, would you be so kind as to give me a brief review? I'd also like your permission to use this in my advertising and marketing. So ultimately, you want to start the relationship with your client with letting them know that you aim to give them 5-star service. And that when you do give them 5-star service, you're going to ask them to share that 5-star service in the form of a review. If we don't ask, we don't get. And so that's kind of where we're focusing here on referrals and reviews, right? Is that it's one thing to play service, right? And customer service and client service. It's another thing to be so proud of the service that you deliver that you can confidently say, my business is referral based, and I would be so grateful for any referrals you have for me. My business is referral based. And what I find is a lot of people find me through reviews. Would you mind taking a minute to leave me a 5-star review if you believe I'm worth it, right? Or if I've exceeded your expectations. Seller reviews, a couple of things you might jot down. When sellers go online and they're looking for a listing agent, they're going to look for 3 things most of the time. 1, they're looking for reviews about how you helped a client sell their home quickly. So sells home quickly. Number 2, they want to know, did you help a seller get their asking price or above, right? So that's always helpful. That's why pricing in the beginning of the transaction or beginning of the listing is so important. And then number 3, sellers, they're looking for those who are impressed by your service, right? So if you can get a seller to mention things like, they helped me sell at the asking price or above, they sold my home quickly, and I was really impressed by their level of communication and their service, that's going to put you in a really strong light. With buyers, it's a little different, not a ton, but with buyers, they're looking for reviews that imply or say that 1, you help them find the perfect home, right? You didn't just sell them any old home. You helped them find the home for them at this time. Maybe having buyers leave reviews around how you negotiated a great price for them, right? That's number 2. And then number 3 is how the transaction went smoothly. Right? They didn't have a bunch of surprises during the transaction and things like that. I'll say this just because I think it's important to share my personal experience. After the first couple years of asking for clients for reviews, it became easier to ask for reviews, right? Because it just became part of our process or part of my system. Like my post-close system, it would have an email saying, here's the 3 links to our Google page, our Zillow page, our Realtor.com page. Would you mind selecting 1 out of the 3 and leaving us a quick review? But I will say this, that after year 2 for me, I hired a executive assistant, right? So I was following the millionaire real estate agent model, and I ended up hiring an executive assistant who ran my life for me, basically. And I actually incentivized her. I think it was like $50 or $75 a review that for each 5-star review we got, that she would get $75. And that increased our reviews dramatically, right? I mean, she was on it. She was like, I want to get this money, right? So I share that because whether you're incentivizing someone else to go get the reviews, or you need to find a way to incentivize yourself to get the reviews, they are extremely powerful. And even though social media today is this thing that we talk about, that's like, oh, you have to be on social to be an agent. You don't. I see agents all the time who are not posting on social media every day, but they have 5-star reviews because there's a whole other group of homeowners and people who own the real estate, who are selling the real estate, that don't care if you have a cool video on your Instagram. They care about whether or not you have a few clients that have said, yes, I trust this person. Yes, this person took care of me. Right. So I hope I'm not throwing a kink in anyone's opinion about reviews versus social media. It's on social media, you get to say what you want to say. Reviews are your clients saying what they're saying, right? So they're very, very powerful tools for you to be able to position yourself above the rest. And this is also why I encourage you, and we at KW encourage you, to ask for the review before you even get to the closing. If you've been working with someone for 2 or 3 months and you've been doing a good job, tonight, ask them for a review, right? And say, hey, you know what? I know we haven't closed the deal yet, but it would mean the world to me as we continue working together if you could leave a quick review on my service to you. If you've been pleased, going back to this question, if you've been pleased and I've exceeded your expectations so far, right? Because they don't have to have bought a house in order to leave you a 5-star review. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Ahas. This is the time. I said I'd, kind of check in with y'all and see, I said ahas are agents helping agents. So who has an aha from this section so far that we've been discussing? Just, it would be a moment of insight or some clarity that you got, during our conversation about communication, our conversation about, setting expectations, referrals, reviews, anything along those lines that you're impressed by.
Well, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if it's really an aha moment, but one of the things that I really liked or took away and why I did the most writing for this section was when you went through the 7 or 8 steps, like setting expectations and the contingencies and things like that. It helped me because my issue right now is time blocking. So I'm thinking if I'm letting people know, I always feel like I have to answer every call to let people know that during this time I'm busy, looking for buyers or sellers, and the things that you said, I think that's helpful so that I'm actually working. I'm not ignoring your call. I'm actually doing work for you, and setting those times and those boundaries. I think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, cool. I love it.
Like that part.
And it shows so much more than just it shows so much more than just your professionalism. It shows that you have foresight, right? It's like a foresight. I know I'm not going to be available at this time from this time, but I will be able to get back to you at this time. So I love that. I think that's a really cool thing to take on. Anyone else? I know I asked for one aha earlier. I'll leave it open because, our ahas are a way for us to also integrate, right? It's like integrate what we learned. Is there anything that stuck out to you you'd like to integrate into your business?
Looks like Jess wrote one in the chat.
Oh, cool. Chat has not been popping up for some reason. There it is. All right. Jess, language is the key to communication. Being clear with clients sets us up for success. 100%. Yeah, the words we use matter. All right. Cool. Jeanette said she agrees with the FIFA. And I wanted to do an apology really quick because it's Sadeka. And I've been saying
Statica.
Sadeka.
Statica.
Sadeka. Thank you. Um,
I didn't want to interrupt the class and like be like, "Oh, my name is Seneca."
I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been working on being able to type out the pronunciation of names better. So Seneca, thank you, Seneca, for your graciousness. And now I know. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into this next section here. We have the majority of our night was in the success with clients. It was in the communication and the setting expectations and all the things that we just talked about. But let's actually dig into what buyers expect and how do you succeed with buyers. Then we'll talk about succeeding with sellers, and then we'll touch a little bit on co-agents or co-op agents. And then that will be it for our session tonight. Here's a graph. And if you want to take a screenshot, take a picture, I would suggest it. It's something it is built into or should be built into your buyer consultation material. Because what buyers want most from their agent is here on the page. This is straight from the 2021 profile of home buyers and sellers. This is a group of study researchers, right, who go out and talk to buyers and they say, why did you get your agent? What did you want most from them? In this case, buyers are saying 52% of the time they need their agent to help them find the right home to purchase, right? So even though they have all the research apps or all the search apps, I should say, on their phone and on their tablet and everywhere, they still want you to help them feel confident about the right home. Second place there, they want the buyer to negotiate the terms of the sale. And then they want the price negotiations. And then the things there are help with paperwork, determine what comparable homes are selling for, and help determine how much the home buyer can afford. So even in that big 24% there's 3 different things broken down. It's help with paperwork and determining comps, and then determining how much affordability factors are. So with that being said, if this is what buyers need from their agent or even want most from their agent, it's really important that we ask questions around those things, right? And how do we know what a win would be for them? Because a win to us might not be a win to them, right? And so it's important that we take our time going through the needs analysis. Now, the first step in your buyer process is, checking in with their needs and asking these needs analysis questions. So frankly, you should have conducted a buyer needs analysis before they even signed the buyer rep agreement to hire you. It is important that you revisit the needs analysis at this stage. So remember, at this stage, they've already hired you. Now you're actively working with them. So, at times someone may say, hey, I want you to represent me, but I don't need you to, I don't need you to like ask me a bunch of questions. I just need you to show me these homes. Well, that's not fair to them and it's not fair to you. Right. So you have a process and you're going to follow the process. Even if they want to go that route, you're going to put a pause on it and have these needs analysis questions. Now, we did cover this in session 14 of Ignite, but it is important to revisit the needs analysis, even if they answered all your questions before. Right before you go out looking at homes, you want to verify, are these things still true, right? Is it still going to be you and your spouse and your kid and your dog living in this house? Or have you added another dog to your house, right? And so just being able to go back through your needs analysis and say, hey, Jeanette, thanks for taking time to answer those questions with me a couple weeks ago. Before we actually go out looking at homes and doing that kind of thing, I wanted just to verify all these things are still true, or maybe make any changes if we need to. Are you still wanting the house to be in move-in condition, or are you willing to do some work on it? Because their opinion may have changed. Now, by the way, the needs analysis is a fantastic tool to come back to if you've gone and seen some houses, but they didn't want to put an offer on anything. If it's been like a week or two of going out and looking at houses and they still haven't put an offer on anything, you're like, okay, I should probably pull that needs analysis back out and make sure I'm understanding the situation that this client is in. There's all different kinds of reasons why we need to review it, because things change. They may have gotten a raise or a pay cut during the time period since we first asked the question. Interest rates may have changed. They may have went up or down since the time you asked these questions the first time. They may have had someone pass away in their family, and now it's just a different scenario, right? Maybe they were going to move close to grandma and grandpa because they were going to be the built-in, babysitters. But now something has happened and that plan has changed and that plan is different. So we just don't want to assume anything ever about our clients. We really want to remain open and curious, right, at all stages. Buyers' lives change and the buyer's world changes, right? The buyer's life might be something specific to them in terms of, their job or their family. The buyer's world may be something more out of their control, like interest rates, or tightening markets, right? So as a fiduciary, going back to that word, as a fiduciary, you're not just the person who opens the door, you're the person who constantly brings back to the question, what are your needs and how can I help you fulfill and solve for your needs right now versus what it was like 3 months ago. For those of you who want to take your conversation skills to the next level, I highly recommend going through a workshop or reading the book, Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. Some of you may already be familiar with Susan Scott. She's been in the personal development world for a long time, but she wrote a book called Fierce Conversations, and it's all about how to build trust and relationship with people that are close to you. So she did a Fierce Conversations for real estate agents at one point. I don't know if she still offers that or not. But being a fiduciary does mean getting into some personal details sometimes about your clients, things that may not feel that comfortable, things that may feel a little bit more taboo, even potentially. But it's important that you are respectful and a professional, but that you also still ask the hard questions at times that maybe otherwise are not going to be asked. Sadeka said, Sasha, author name. It's Susan Scott is the author. The book is Fierce Conversations. Highly recommend. So one of the tough conversations you may have with your clients is about affordability. Now you're going to work with a lender, right? You're going to have a lender or a mortgage lender if they need financing, set all of that up before you even go looking at houses. But every now and then they may be disappointed with what their budget can get them. I will tell you, when I moved from Oklahoma City, where the average sales price was $175,000, to Dallas, Texas, where the average sales price was $375,000, I was surprised at what felt to me like a lack of affordability, right? Like that people were trying to get into first-time homes, and it's like the homes didn't match up with what I thought that they should be. Now, maybe your area has people moving in, maybe it has people moving out. Either way, it's a conversation that market to market, things are very different, right? And it can be a tough conversation to have about setting up those market expectations. Other conversations you're going to need to have with your buyers, you're going to have to remind them, don't buy things right now. You can buy groceries, you can pay your bills, but don't go buying a boat, don't go buying a car, don't go, trying to pay off all your student loans unless your lender says that you need to, or gives you the thumbs up. But you want to make sure that, they're not doing something that would prevent them from being able to buy a house, right? If they come to you with a goal of buying a house, you want to be able to deliver on that goal. And so just making sure that they understand, hey, changing your debt to income right now could throw off your approval. So let's make sure we talk to the lender about that first. All right, showing homes based on the needs analysis. You've asked all these questions. Who's going to be living in your house? How much can your payment be? Do you need a yard? Do you not need a yard, right? All of the questions that we looked at just a few slides ago on the needs analysis, right? Non-negotiables, year built. Are you okay with an older home or do you need a new home? Are there any specific features? Do you need a pool? Do you need a covered patio? Do you want a covered patio? Do you need a 3-car garage, or would you be okay with a 2-car garage, right? All these questions you're asking, and then it's time to go show houses, which is the best part of the job, right? For a lot of us anyway, we love houses. We love looking at houses. We like looking at them online, but we really love looking at them in person. So you want to start finding the homes that are going to fit your buyer's needs. I would encourage you to take any MLS classes that you can. Your local MLS, learning to navigate your MLS and learning to navigate that tool is going to make your life so much easier. So if you haven't taken any MLS classes or enough yet to feel comfortable using that tool to save searches, to set up auto notifications, to filter and criteria out certain things, then make sure to hit up some of those classes. You ultimately want to be able to play concierge a little bit. Okay. One of my individual agents, her name is Brittany Hughes. She was a solo agent until this year when she started building her team. But the young lady is 26 years old, I think. She sold 81 homes last year, all by herself. Yes. I see that face, Jeanette. Like, yeah, it's true. She went in and she just concierged her clients. And here's what I mean is she clienteled them. She took everyone's needs. She made sure that they got pre-approved. She revisited their needs, just like we're talking about tonight. And she did all of this over Zoom or over the phone. And then by the time they went out to look at homes, she had told them, I have picked out the top 5 favorite home, or the top 5 homes that fit your criteria. And we're going to go see those homes. Are you ready to put an offer on one? That's how she phrased it to them, right? So she didn't give this whole, like, let me know what houses you want to go see. She had no time for that style. Her style was, I'm the professional. I'm going to ask you these questions. I'm going to set up the tours. And if for some crazy reason, one of these 5 is not the house for you, then we're going to go back to the drawing board and I'm going to figure out what the next 5 are that are going to be for you, right? Because I must have missed something. But in her mind, especially when there's enough inventory, she's purposefully picking out houses for them. Now she'll let them search on their own all they want, online and going to open houses and things like that. But when it's time, when they're in their time frame to actually buy or put an offer on something, she's with them every step of the way, encouraging them to just look at these houses. So here's the thing: is you want it to be a co-creation, so to speak, with your client. So one thing to do is to make sure you have previewed the houses on MLS, that you've read all the notes, the private remarks, you've downloaded the seller's disclosure, you've done these things ahead of time. So a few best practices, these are also in your guide. You only want to show the best properties. All right. There's no reason to show a property that isn't the best for your client's price range and for their needs. Okay. Because the best property isn't the best out of, like, in a general sense, it's the best property for your buyer, for your client. 2, have the MLS listing printed out, or like in a digital version that you can email them easily. Even including the disclosures is a good idea to have on hand. Number 3, mark properties on a map and answer location questions. Now, this is when you're really beginning to optimize your seller or your buyer service. Is, ahead of time, you're saying, hey, here are the 5 houses I think you should go see this weekend, that we should go see this weekend. Here they are on a map, right? Here they are in the different neighborhoods or different communities. Number 4, be knowledgeable about the property and the neighborhoods. Number 5, include recent comparable sales. That way you don't have to go back and do the research. You actually have the research with you while you're there at the house. And if they want to write an offer, you can start educating them right then and there on what that offer price should be. And then number 6, point out potential issues and concerns with each house. If all you do is go in and show the house and you're like, yeah, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one, that's not playing a fiduciary, right? You want to go into the house, you want to look at it. You've already seen it on MLS. You want to actually look at it, get a feel for where everything's at. Has anyone been looking at homes either in person or on the MLS consistently since you've been in Ignite as part of your enrichments or in part of your daily success system? Anyone out in the field looking at homes or previewing homes? A little bit. I encourage you to. Dawn said she has. I encourage you to. I know time is is important. You guys are a lot of busy people, right? So I encourage you to just make some time, maybe either on a Sunday morning or maybe you go visit open houses, but wherever you can fit in, maybe visiting 4, 5, 6 houses a week. I think it will go a long way for you being able to feel the inventory, right? You get into the house. It's not just seeing it online. You get to feel it. You get some experience with being out in the field. It'll give you some perspective when you start working with your clients. Now, showing homes does mean agent interaction. So the moment you go to schedule a tour, the agent who has that property listed is going to get notified. If you need to call them to schedule the showing, they're definitely going to be notified, right? So you really are beginning the relationship with that co-op agent from the beginning. And it is important to build a positive relationship with that person, even if you're doing a negotiation with them when you get into the offers, right? You still want the relationship overall to be positive because they have the goal of selling a house. You have a goal of helping your buyer buy a house. And when you begin to schedule those tours, you begin to build a reputation with that person. So make sure you're following the guidelines or the request of the listing agent. If in MLS it says, call to schedule showings, you want to call to schedule the showing. If it says don't call, just text, even if you don't like that rule, which I don't, you still want to follow the rule, right? You still want to follow their request. Because it means it shows them you're paying attention. It shows them that you have respect for their request and what they need. You want to be diplomatic is kind of how I would phrase that. Here are some things that you might want to put in your home tour toolkit. This is everything from umbrellas, right? Like I'll kind of just point out a few of my favorites here, like umbrellas. I like some beverages and snacks to be able to provide to my clients or their kids when they're, starting in between houses. Like maybe you just say, hey, I've got some, granola bars in the car if you or the kids want one, right? That kind of thing. A tape measure is a nice thing to have in your car at all times when you go to tour a house. So you can, that if they say, oh, we'd have to come back later and see if the couch fits. Well, you're like, oh no, actually I have a tape measure now. We can schedule or look at that now or measure that now. You might want a flashlight. I know our phones have flashlights, but maybe your client wants their own, flashlight to walk around the house if it is without electricity or something like that. And then I know this is kind of a funny one, but I always kept it with me. I still do. Paper goods. So that way, if you're visiting a house that is vacant and someone needs to use the restroom, as long as the water's on, you can say, oh no, I've got toilet paper down in the car. Like, let me bring it in. Sanitizing wipes, those kinds of things. So you'll see all different kinds of things here. It's in your participant guide as well. But yeah, you want looking at homes to be a positive experience, right? I don't know about you, but when I went to Nordstrom Rack that day, I spent maybe an hour too long and I was kind of exhausted. I was like, man, I got spent a little too long here at the store. And so with that being said, it was easy for me to get a little cranky. It was easy for me to kind of get my energy down a little bit. If I would have just had, a snack, or if I would have just been able to, sit down even, right? So in some open houses, I'll give this as an example. If it's vacant, you might want to bring a quick folding chair and folding table, right, with you if it's a vacant house, or something, right, where you can kind of like have a place for people to rest if they need to. So those are things to think about, right? You want to make it you're not just helping someone buy a house, you're helping kind of create a positive experience for them. Okay, Catherine asked about the graphite for the sticky locks. Personally, in 10 years, I have never used graphite for a sticky lock, but I have heard that you can have locks that are hard to turn, and that if you put, I guess it's like some kind of powder graphite on the key or something, that it might help out with turning the key. That's all I know, Catherine. I wish I knew more about that particularly, but I have had trouble with bolts before, right? Where it's like, man, is it the door? Is it the bolt? Like, what is going on? This should be much easier to unlock than it is. So I'm thinking that that's just a little hack that some agents have come up with to be able to unlock those sticky bolt locks. All right. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm on track here. All right. Safety first, right? I mean, we can't, and we don't want to ever put anyone in jeopardy. Nothing is worth our safety, right? Nothing is worth putting ourselves or our clients in danger. So first and foremost, follow your instincts. That's just what I'm going to say to everyone here. Go to some safety classes, learn some different things, but first and foremost, follow your instincts. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. If you feel like you need to end a showing, don't do it. If you feel like you don't want to walk into a vacant house and there's just something kind of eerie about it, you don't have to do it, right? You can have another solution. Maybe you come back during the day if it's dark. Maybe you ask another agent to come meet you. Maybe you ask your client if they're comfortable, right? I'm just thinking about like different spouse couples that I've had out, and it's like one is a little bit more, macho and strong than the rest of us. I'm like, would you mind going in here first? Just to make sure there's no one hiding in the corner, you want to make sure that you're staying focused on safety. Always be aware of your surroundings. You don't have to, this is important for all of us. You do not need to or ever need to go show a house to a buyer you don't know. So you can set the precedent, and you should set the precedent in your business that you have buyer meetings before you go out alone to a house, right? So that way you can get a feel for your client and you can really understand who you're working with a little bit better instead of meeting them at the vacant house for the first time. I hate it has to be a conversation for us, but it does, because there are people who know that realtors often work alone, and they may try to take advantage of that, even if it's just theft or robbery, right? Or those kinds of things. Like that would be the bare minimum of what could go wrong. Putting yourself in actual danger could be a whole other thing. So, one, follow your instincts. Two, always announce yourself when you're coming into the house. If it's a vacant house, still announce yourself. Knock, 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 open the door. Hey, Megan, realtor here. Hey, Megan, realtor here. I'm basically just making an announcement to the house, even if it's vacant, that I'm here. If it's an occupied house, I would still do the same thing. It's not unheard of to have, mom and dad away at work and the kids are supposed to be at school, and some kid is at home playing video games and doesn't know that a showing is happening, right? And so you want to make it your announcement very loud and clear when you go into the house. And you're going to have buyers ask you, like, why do you announce yourself every time? And you can just say, hey, it's for safety, just to make sure everyone knows that, people are entering the house, and, hopefully we can, avoid any surprises in the bedroom or surprises in the living room or whatever. Number 3, under safety, you want to warn your clients about audio and video camera equipment and recording equipment. So if some of you have been in business for 3 years, there was one agent who's been here for 3 years or in business for 3 years, but for those of you who are newer, almost every home is coming equipped with some type of something right now, right? So some kind of tech, some kind of smart device. We don't want to make any assumptions about what the sellers are not listening to. So at this point, we just take the assumption that the sellers are listening to everything that goes on while you're showing the house. So with that being said, you don't want to talk about price. You don't want to talk about what you want to offer. I wouldn't even really talk about anything that could be seen as offensive, right? I just would keep everything pretty general, pretty neutral in the house, and then go out by your cars or kind of out into the drive, like even past the driveway, to have any specific conversations about the house itself or what price you might want to offer and things like that. A lot of what my agents do now is they'll tell their client, hey, anything you want to tell me while you're touring this house, will you just text that to me? That way they can have like kind of, while they're like looking around the house, maybe the buyer's texting, Catherine, like their comments or their thoughts on it instead of saying it out loud in the house. This is not even to say, about like health safety. So in the event of another, world spread, virus or something like that, we'd obviously be wearing masks, maybe even wearing booties or shoes in the house, things like that, offering hand sanitizer. And then the other thing I want to mention back on personal safety is having an app on your phone to let people know where you are at all times, but also having a button that you can click in times of emergency, right? So the Supra app, the eKey app, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but I want to say inside of the Supra, there's actually like an emergency call button that can notify someone that you tell it to notify if you're in a time of trouble of some kind. So look into that. Make sure you have something on your phone that can notify either a loved one or emergency services if you ever feel like you're in danger. Hopefully no one ever has to deal with that. Our job as agents working with buyers isn't to show homes. Okay. Our job is to sell homes, and our job is to help clients put an offer and make a decision on putting an offer on something. So if you're showing the buyer, the first 2 homes on your list and they hate both of them, and you know that the third one is they're also going to hate, there's no reason to show it. You can take that time and reset with them, right? I was out this weekend showing some clients in South Dallas, and that we had a list of 4 homes we were going to go see. The first one they had already seen once, but the other 3 were brand new that they had never seen before. And after the first 2, they were like, if any of these are going to work, it's probably going to be the first one. I just said, do you want to go see these next 2? And they said, not really. I said, okay, we don't have to, because if they don't like it enough to see it, why would we spend our time and their time on seeing it, right? So just keep that in mind. And then here's a question to ask, speaking of language and kind of helping clients make decisions. A question to ask is, if you had to choose a property today or a house to purchase today, which one between A and B would you select? And if they say B, then you can eliminate A, and A never has to be a conversation again, right? So if you had to choose a property right now, which one would you select, A or B? Okay, great. We can cross A off the list, or we can cross B off the list, depending on which one they said. You're looking for a house that meets their needs, not necessarily all of their wants. And so as you're showing houses, you being able to eliminate, right? Especially if you have like more than 4 or 5 on the list to see in the course of a weekend or something, it's like, okay, we don't want to get confused. So I'm going to show you the first 2. If you had to choose one, which one would it be? Okay, B, fantastic. A is off the list. Now we go see C. Okay, between C and B, which one would you buy today if you had to? B, it still is B. Okay, great. We're putting C, off the list as well. And basically what I would do is I would have my MLS sheets printed out, because that's just me. And I would have MLS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if I was showing 5 houses. And as I was asking that question, I would be putting them in a different order and writing at the top, right? Okay, this is number 1. Okay, now it's number 2. Oh, now it's back to number 1, right? And I would be keeping track of basically which houses were the best options for my client. You're going to find a house that works about 80% for your client. Maybe 90% if you're lucky. Very rarely is it going to be 100% for their budget and their wants and needs. So it's kind of like choosing a partner, right? It's like we know that there's no perfect partner, but we know that we can work with the kind of maybe misgivings of a certain part of that while we appreciate and enjoy the rest of it. That might be a bad example, but I'm going to share it anyway. My partner's 100, like I couldn't ask for anything more. Reasons buyers hesitate. These are important to think about because you can help them through it. Sometimes they're just afraid to commit. That's okay. They can be afraid and still commit. That's what you're there for. 2, sometimes they don't like some minor detail of the home. They're like, everything's perfect, but like, man, that front porch just isn't big enough, Like, okay, well, what could we do to make it work? Number 3, they maybe feel like they haven't seen enough homes. We just need to see more homes. We just need to see more homes. Or number 4, they feel like they need to sleep on it or get the opinion of a trusted advisor. So these are just things to look out for, right? It's going to happen and there's nothing wrong with it. If they say they haven't seen enough homes, okay, now we can have like a conversation. How many homes do you think you need to see in order to be able to choose one, right? And we call those like objections instead of they're just objections to putting an offer on something. They're not really like a no, I won't put an offer on it. It's just no, I don't feel ready right now to put an offer on it. And so we can help them through some of these things here. And this is in your participant guide, because you're going to use your Ignite manual a lot throughout the next year. Okay, you're going to flip back to it. You're going to want to remind yourself of things. It's easy to sometimes go through a class and then just put it on the shelf. This morning I picked out a binder from my shelf that I hadn't looked at in a while. It was my Mega Leadership Camp binder from earlier this year in May. And I learned a lot from just kind of like going through it this morning. So you're going to do that same thing with your Ignite binder. But these are a few guidelines to help facilitate decision making. So 1, always go back to their motivation, right? Why do they want to buy a house in the first place? going back to their needs and wants, advising them as a consultant and a fiduciary, allay their fears, kind of put their fears a little bit at bay, let them know it's normal to have these kinds of fears and concerns. Number 5, solve their challenges, right? If they're like, the front porch isn't big enough, and you're like, okay, maybe you have a solution to that. Maybe you know a concrete guy or person who can come out and extend the front porch, right? And then also number 5, this is very practical, helping them calculate the cost of waiting. Many of our title companies here in Texas, I'm curious about your title companies or closing companies or escrow companies, if you use those in your state, if they offer this, but we have an app, right? And the app with each title company has all these calculators. And the calculators that we use now are the cost of waiting calculator, the cost of the then versus now calculator, which is basically if we would have bought then versus now, what's that difference? Okay. Because what we're trying to do is help people see that the future might not actually be that much better than the present. And with your goal of buying a house, it may just be worth it to go ahead and make it happen now versus thinking or hoping that things are better 6 months from now. So sometimes that is the conversation we're needing to have, is to drive back to their motivation, to dig in a little bit to the uncomfortable conversations. Remember those tough conversations we talked about, and say, hey, I'm not here to convince you to buy anything you don't want to buy, but you did tell me you were ready to be a homeowner, or you did tell me you were ready to move into the second home, or you did tell me you wanted to be an investor, right? And here's our chance. If we don't act now, here's what it might look like later. Are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with that? If you're not okay with that, then let's go ahead and make the decision today to put an offer in. And then there's nothing like practicing this, right? Like practicing it with your clients, practicing it with each other, that kind of thing. All right, for the sake of time, I'm not going to make us do ahas, but I am going to point out it would mean a whole lot to me if you guys went to kwueval.com. Inside of kwueval.com, you maybe have already done this with some of your other instructors this month, but there's a place for you to say what region you are in. In fact, I'm going to pull mine up really quick so I can see it with you. kwueval.com. This is the KW University way of getting feedback on these classes, on the instructors, making sure it's a good use of your time, and how can we keep making it better, right? Especially the Zoom classes and the online classes. So you'll put your region in there. Most of you will know your region. If you don't know your region, you can chat in and I might be able to help you find your region. Probably what I would do if you can't find your region is tell you to choose my region, and then I would just tell KW University to fix it on the back end. But hopefully you'll be able to find your region there. The event type obviously is virtual, and then the name of the course is going to be Ignite number 16, Work with Buyers and Sellers. Ignite 16, put that, Work with Buyers and Sellers. I'm going to put that in the chat just so everyone has it there. kwueval.com. Let's see here. We've got the next thing that you'll see there is the instructor name, and the instructor name is not in the list. So you'll actually have to go all the way to the bottom and select instructor number 1, not in drop down. I don't know if you can see that, but it'll look like that. Instructor number 1, not in drop down. And from there, you'll actually just put my name in there. And I have it there on my participant guide, or my participant name, but I'll type it into the chat as well. And then the rest of that page, you can just fill out. There's some that you can leave feedback on. There's some that you don't have to. But either way, would be honored if you take just a minute to complete that for us. And while y'all are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and go to our next section here. I will come back to that slide, like I said, at the end, just as a reminder if someone didn't get to finish, or if you have any questions, just chat in and I can help you finish up that eval. All right. So we talked about success with clients, success with buyers. Now let's just chat for a minute about success with sellers. Sellers are different. Okay. A lot of agents will say, I want to work with buyers because they're easier. Well, I'll tell you, sellers, they're not necessarily sellers, and buyers aren't necessarily easier or harder. They're just different, I mean, they just need different things. So here's what sellers want most from their agent. Most of all, they want to price their home competitively. They don't want to undersell their home. They don't want to put a list price on it that's too low or too high. They want to price it competitively. Number two, they want help marketing the home to potential buyers. Then they want help selling the home within a specific time frame. And they want help to find ways to fix up the home to sell it for more. So that's still a very popular thing. They're like, hey, Jeanette, should we put a pergola in the backyard? Should we paint the house? Should we, fix up the carpet in that back bedroom that's all messed up from the dogs, or do we just leave it as is, right? They're going to be looking to you for answers to those kinds of things. Under the other category there, the 27% that you see in the teal, they want help finding a buyer. They want help negotiating. And then they want help with the paperwork, inspections, and things like that. So sellers, they're needy. I mean, they are going to need a lot from you. They want a lot from you. A lot of times it's because they feel like they're the ones paying the commission in the first place. So they have higher expectations about what they need from their agent or even what they want from their agent. And I am confident that with what you're learning in Ignite, what you learn with your Market Center leadership and support team, that you will be the agent who can price homes competitively, market the home to potential buyers, sell a house within a specific time frame, and help the client or the seller find ways to fix it up. You have a whole team behind you to support you in that. So the seller needs, ultimately the needs analysis for a seller is, what's the price we need to sell it at? What's the time frame we need to sell it at? And what are the conveyances? Now, conveyances are, hey, we're going to leave the hot tub with the house, right? The Whirlpool tub in the back, on the back porch with the house. Conveyances are things like being able to convey the, luxury chandelier in the entryway, right? Or in the first part of the house. Conveyances might be things like, hey, we're going to leave all that movie room equipment, all that bonus room, that movie room upstairs. We're going to leave all the chairs, all the stuff, the projector. Those are the types of conveyances we're talking about. They're things that would not normally go with the real estate, but that your seller is saying, yes, I want to sell with the real estate, or I would prefer to sell with the house. Here in Dallas, a lot of times furniture is that, right? So especially in luxury homes that are very well staged, they're like, oh, can we buy this house with the furniture? And you're like, if you want to, yeah, we can make that happen. Now, you want to revisit your seller's needs because same thing as buyers, their lives change and the world is changing. Sellers could lose their job, right? So maybe carrying a mortgage, it becomes harder for them. Let's say they hire you to put their house on the market. 3 months later, they lose their job. Whereas before they felt like they didn't have a heavy timeline or a deadline, now they do. Maybe the seller finds their dream home, right? So they were going to sell their house and buy a house, but they hadn't found the right house to buy. So they were taking their time on selling. Well, if they find their dream home, their motivation for selling their house is going to increase, right? Because they don't want to miss out on their dream home. So you want to make sure you're constantly checking in with your clients' life and the world in terms of the market and things like that might be changing. It's not unheard of. This is a practical thing to share. It's not unheard of for you to sit down and have a listing consultation with a client 6 months before they actually put their house on the market. There was a year, it was 2017, that I took 112 listings in 1 year. And I will tell you that with the help of my executive assistant and the help of my team, okay, it wasn't just me, but like with the help of my team, we were on a lot of appointments with people who were not actually looking to do anything today, right? They may be preparing to do something 3 months from now, 6 months from now. So that year of 112 listings wasn't because we went on 112 appointments with people who needed to do something today. It was because we went on 112 appointments the year before with people who were ready to do something down the line, right? And so there's that work of being able to consult, not sell, right? That you as a consultant aren't attached to the timeline. You're just there to help them make the decisions about when is best for them. ultimately all your sellers can control is price and condition. That's it. That's literally all they can control. They can control what asking price their house is at, and they can control what their house looks like. They can't control the market. They can't control what the buyers think. They can only control those two things. I love the picture that Ignite chose to use for this particular slide. Sometimes as an agent, you're going to have sensitive conversations with your seller. They can be challenging, but they're very helpful so that when the time comes for them to show their house, the house is actually show ready to sell. In order to sell for the highest price, you also oftentimes have to be the best looking. So something we say in the industry is that at times you're in a price war and a beauty contest. So we have to be the best priced home and the best looking home in order to sell. So your job as a real estate agent may be to set expectations around the way the house looks, smells, feels, right, when someone comes to see it. Here's a few things just for the sake of time that may be a sensitive topic. Maybe dog odor, right? Like, or pet odor, I should say, right? I don't want to call out the dogs, just any kind of pet odor, right? That might be a sensitive thing that you need to talk about. Maybe smoke, right? Cigarette smoke in the garage. Like, oh, I only smoke in the garage. You're like, well, it's still coming into the house, maybe, certain things out in the house that maybe shouldn't be out, right? Like certain expensive items, like if they're used to leaving their jewelry out on the bathroom counter, like you're going to need to talk with them about that, right? Maybe if they have a gun display, right, up on the wall of all kinds of guns or something, you might want to talk with them about that, right? Maybe they just have like all of their special art that they love that might not be the best taste for everyone else that's coming to see the house. You may need to have a conversation about that. So, there's a lot of sensitive subjects that could come up, but you're dealing with people's lifestyles. And so sometimes it's nice to have a stager come in and give those suggestions instead of you, because then you can play the nice person and then your stager can kind of play, the bad cop, so to speak, and be like, okay, this isn't going to work. This is what we need to do to sell your house for the price that you and Jeanette were talking about selling it for. We're really going to need it to look and feel this way, right? So there's ways to do that. And I think ultimately all of you guys are so smart and so sharp, or you wouldn't be here. You're going to be able to navigate those. Just don't forget to, right? Like, don't think like, oh, someone else might not smell what I smell. They do. They smell what you smell, so.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry. So how do you address the pet smell? Because people are very sensitive about their pets. Pets are like children. And if they're still living in the home and they put it on the market, it's like the pet is going to be in there, in and out. So what do you say for that?
Yes. So, what I'd like to do, Afifa, is actually set up a plan now for where the dogs or the pets are going to be when we have showings. Do you think it's a scenario where maybe they could have someone come take them on a walk during the showings? Is there a chance they could go to like a dog daycare or something like that? I want to make sure that, people are able to view the house in a way that's going to work for. I want to make sure that people are going to be able to view the house without feeling like they're in someone else's house. Is there any way that we could make arrangements for, the pets? Now, if it's the odor aspect, right, then I think we start with a conversation of where are the pets going to be when we show the house. Are you going to take them on a walk, or can you have someone come take them on a walk? Are they going to be in their kennel, or are they going to be in like that room or the laundry room or whatever? And then once you bring that up, I think it is important just to be honest and say, hey, I noticed, a few rooms have a little bit stronger of a scent with the pets or with the dogs, whatever they might be. Is it possible to get this, deep cleaned, or have like a professional, like carpet person come out and like carpet shampoo the carpets? So I'm not doing an entirely good job for you, Afifa, but I think just speaking to it directly is important. And kind of cushion it, right? Like I love dogs too, and here's what we need to do, and I have recommendations for you if you need help, right? So kind of like sandwich the positives in between that one little point of, not contention, but point of that might be a little uncomfortable.
Cool beans. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I think with that, I use the dogs as an example. I now feel like I meet more people even with cats sometimes, and so it's like, hey, the litter box. Like, by the way, I like to give my clients like here's what you need to do every time you show the house, right? So our goal is to sell it fast, so you don't have to follow these rules every time for like a month. Like, I'm hoping to be on the market for like a week or less and get you an offer. But in that week, when we're showing the house, like, you're gonna like leave the lights on. You're gonna have all the dishes out of the sink. You're gonna make sure the litter box is clean. You're gonna make sure the carpets just got freshly vacuumed, like if they have a dog, right, or something like that. And so just being able to have kind of like a best ways to show your house. That way we don't get lowball offers just because it feels uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Let's see here. I know we're getting close to, we just hit the top of the hour, and I'm pretty respectful of how y'all's time goes. I do want to just kind of wrap up here because we just have a few more slides left. Speaking of sellers, and the things that might be sensitive or the things that they can control, ultimately we come back to those same 4 fundamentals of a conversation with our sellers or with our clients that make our communication something that we can trust, right? And one is being able to provide a strong foundation for a sustaining relationship, setting and managing those expectations, creating peace of mind, and then enhancing your credibility. I'm glad we're not done, because this is where Jen asked earlier, what are the words that I would use to do this, right? I want to share a few of them with you. So, and this is in your participant guide, so if you see it there, like, you might even have more details than I do, but under providing a strong foundation, something you might say, I shared earlier, is, hey, once we agree to work together, I'll advise you around the best practices to make sure your home is set up in a way that buyers are going to feel comfortable to put an offer on it, right? So that phrase, like, once we agree to work together, I'll advise you. And then even like putting in the phrase, our goal, right? Like, it's not my goal. It's not your goal. Our goal is to sell this house for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. Would you agree? Right? Our goal is to sell this house for the most amount of money possible, right? I think this even goes back to maybe the pet conversation. Our goal is to sell this house quickly and for the most amount of money, right? I have found that in my experience, it's important that we don't have the dogs here at the house while we're doing showings. Is there anything we could do at all to make sure that they're somewhere else while the buyers are coming to tour? Under setting and managing expectations proactively, something you might say is, most buyers prefer a move-in ready model-like home, but I understand not all do. Which one, where do you fall in that category, right? Do you fall more on the, I want to have a fixer upper, or do you fall more on the, I want a brand new home, or a home that feels brand new? So being able to set the expectations doesn't mean not asking questions, right? So it's all about asking the questions at that point. Creating peace of mind. I think back to that, like, I've got you, I'm in your corner, I've got your back, I'll advise you. Those are the kinds of words that will create peace of mind for your client. And then whatever you can do to enhance credibility, right, in terms of your communication. I think sometimes the objections, like the one that Afifa just brought up about like the pet odors or whatever it might be, sometimes the objections are our chance to shine. It's our chance to create credibility and to let them know, hey, I've done this before, and I have the knowledge that even though I don't want to tell you, I have to tell you because it's going to benefit you, right? It's going to benefit you to be able to have the house prepared and ready for sellers or for buyers to come tour. Besides just using your communication to increase your credibility, there are other non-verbal things that you can do to increase your credibility. Being able, just coming prepared, right? Having your MLS sheets or your tax sheets, having your needs analysis questions ready to go, Coming prepared is a big deal. Dressing well is a big deal. Feeling proud of how you're dressed and feeling sharp about that. Being able to ask good questions shows your credibility. And then even your body language can help you build credibility. It is unfortunate, but at times a client of yours may violate a fair housing law. They may say, hey, I don't want you to show my house to any blank. And then they just put some group of people in there. They may say, oh, well, is that offer from, so-and-so or this kind of a person or that kind of a person? That is completely against the law. They cannot violate fair housing laws. It is important that you set up the expectation that you are a fair housing, equal housing opportunity agent, that you participate as a realtor in equal housing, and that means you're going to expose the house to any and all potential buyers, and that you're going to present any and all potential offers, and that your client, the seller, needs to consider all offers that come in. Ultimately, I'll say I've sold a lot of homes in 10 years, and I now supervise agents who sell a lot of homes. Thankfully, this doesn't come up a whole lot. I also wonder if maybe as agents, and I learned this from Julia Lachey Israel with KWRI, I also wonder if maybe we don't call it out as much as we should, right? So I haven't had anyone directly do this, but I wonder if it happens indirectly in ways that we don't notice, which is why I encourage you, if you haven't yet, went through the Agent of Distinction certification with Julia Lachey. You go through an unconscious bias class, you go through the color of real estate class, you really learn at the root of it why this is even a federal law, and what's so important about this, because it is important that we as realtors protect this. If we don't protect it, I don't know if there will be any other people trying to protect it like we would, right? So we believe in everyone having the opportunity to be a homeowner in the US. And so if you do have a client violating it, these are the instructions here. You want to fully document everything that happens, consult an attorney, make sure you report it to your broker. And ultimately, you're going to discontinue representation. You're not going to work with that client if they choose to continue to act against the Fair Housing Act. No commission is worth your reputation, especially on that fair housing. There's a 14-step marketing plan. You can find this in your Command marketing presentations. The purpose of a listing when you're working with a seller is obviously to do a great job for that client and to sell that house. It's also to generate leads from that listing, right? When you have a sign in the yard that says for sale, call Jeanette, then you have the opportunity to get leads of other neighbors that might be looking to sell their house, of other buyers who might be looking to buy that house or another house entirely. So that's why we say the 3 L's as an MREA are leads, listings, leverage. Because when you get listings, the leads will come. And the more leads you have, the more leverage you'll be able to build into your business, and offer the opportunity to go do more dollar productive things as an agent versus having to continue doing the same things you're always doing. When you add leverage in, then someone else or something else is doing what you were doing. And now you're back focused to where your real estate efforts really should be. In the Shift book, we write the message you put out to attract prospective buyers and sellers is everything. Why would they want to contact you in the market? What would they get if they did? And those 2 questions are at the heart of all effective messaging. So, when you're thinking about looking at some of the marketing content, right, social media, emails, etc., that you might want to put together, ask the question, why would someone want to contact me in this market? And then what would they get if they did? So, here, a lot of our agents are using the, contact me for a free consultation. You think buying a home is out of reach right now? Contact me for a free consultation. You think now's not a good time to sell? Contact me for a consultation, right? Curious what your home is worth in today's market compared to last year? I've been running those reports all morning, ... I can send you a report right away. Just enter your information here, right? So anything you can do to add some specifics to your messaging and to your marketing is helpful. Your MLS listing reflects your brand, so you want to get it right. When a buyer's agent goes and searches the MLS for a listing and they find Sedica's listing, then the way that those documents are uploaded, the way that the listing looks, I begin to form an impression of Zedica, right? And so you want to make sure you're utilizing the right professionals to get great pictures and floor plans. You want to make sure you have the right schedule set up for people to tour your property. Those are all things you'll have editing access to as an agent and as the listing agent. And of course, you want to make sure you have the right documents for your state and your market center, anything that they require you upload to MLS. In our case, we require a seller's disclosure. If lead-based paint is required, we upload that. And more often than not, in our market, you're going to see offer instructions, which is basically just a Google doc or a Word doc that says, here's how to put an offer in on this house. This is the title company we're going to close at. Here's where to email your offer to. Here's what we expect in earnest money or option money. It doesn't mean that someone has to follow all those rules, but the more closer they are to following those offer instructions, the more likely their offer is going to get accepted or looked at. All right. And Jeanette, I got your message. So yes, I'll make sure to get that binder over to you. If you'll just email me or chat in your email address, please. All right. You guys hopefully all know, but if you haven't yet, I say go explore with it. Inside of Command Designs, you can put an address of a property in that's on the market right now, and it will automatically import those pictures over for you to do a flyer, open house flyer, just listed flyer, just listed postcard, those kinds of things. So once it's in MLS, your Command Designs can actually pull those pictures over from the listing itself on the MLS. All right, cool. Let's see. Proper signage. So, this is the fun part, right? You want to make sure you get your for sale sign up within 1 business day of marketing the property. That is a rule that we subscribe to as realtors. So if you start publicly marketing it, which means like putting it on Facebook, putting it on the MLS, you need to get a sign in the yard as well. And that just basically says, who is in charge of that listing, right? Who's in charge of that home that's for sale. Speaking of signage, check in with your market center to make sure if you're going to do a custom sign of some kind that you're following whatever rules that your market center wants to have and has as a market center. Our agents, they have freedom to create their own signs, but we do ask that, TREC, the Real Estate Commission, does require that all of our agents' signs have the KW logo at least half the size of the agent name or the agent logo. So the agent name and logo can be bigger, but the KW sign or logo has to be at least half the size. So those are things that we look at and we approve just so that they know that they're not wasting their money on spending hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars on signs without being fully compliant. So just check in with your market center on that. All right, let's look at success with co-agents. This is a very brief section here. But at this point, right, you've put a sign in the yard, you're starting to work not just with buyers out looking at houses and working with the co-op agents, but you as the listing agent are now having agents call you or contact you, and you're beginning to set up a reputation and rapport, frankly, with that agent as well. So, if you're a listing agent, the buyers are contacting you with questions. Oh, do you have any offers on this house? How many offers have you had? How many showings have you had? They're trying to get information from you, right? So you only have one chance to make a first impression. I always say for us at KW, the first rule before anything is to be kind, right? If you can lead with kindness, then you're in a good spot, right? There's enough agents out there who are a little bit more, maybe not as kind, but you can be professional and kind, right? You don't have to be professional and unkind. So just remember that you're making that first impression, and it may be that you're having a conversation over the phone or over text with an agent that you're about to actually go into a contract with. So even if they're not, putting an offer in on your property, you being able to go under contract with someone that you've already built some rapport with is so helpful. So you want to make yourself memorable, whether you're a buyer's agent trying to reach out to the seller's agent, whether you're a seller's agent, fielding buyer's agent questions. You're going to make yourself memorable by either being great or by being terrible. I would just say choose to be the great one, right? Choose to be the kind one, the gracious one, the grateful one. If you don't need to be respectful, if you don't need to contact an agent after 9 o'clock in the evening, don't. It's not necessary, even if you think it is, and sometimes we just get busy. We're working and we're like, it's after 9, like maybe email them or set a reminder on your phone to call them first thing in the morning. That way you're able to be respectful of everyone in terms of the profession. And then I guess the biggest question I would ask here is, if you're the buyer's agent, did you read all of the co-op agent's instructions on the listing? Because sometimes they will say, like I said, don't call, just text. And you want to follow those instructions just so you can make sure that you've got good rapport and a good trust built with that agent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our working with buyers and sellers tonight. Thank you for hanging out with me for a few minutes after 7. I am curious, and I'm going to take myself off the screen share if that's all right with y'all. For those of you who were able to stick around, what are 1 or 2 things from this last section of the material that you're thinking about, maybe implementing? What are you most looking forward to implementing in this part of your business when it comes to working with clients? And I'm going to be sending those binders over to a couple of you. But feel free to share if you have something.
I do like the idea of creating a checklist for your clients if they're going to be showing their homes, because I feel like so many people ask, well, what should I do, and that type of thing. So creating a checklist and having something tangible for them to touch and look at and maybe actually check off. And like, I'm a visual person, so something like that would be super beneficial for me. So I do like the concept of creating something like that to be able to give my client. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And Catherine, if you want to leave your email in the chat, I think I have a good example of something like that I could forward over to you.
I'll take that too.
Okay, yeah, but anyone who I have,
I want everything.
all right, sounds good. Yeah, anyone who has their email that you've already shared, or please chat it in now. I'll send that over to all of y'all. Yeah, I've got
I can't find my, oh, sorry. I can't find my chat box, but you're sending me the binder thing. So if you want to send me that paper too, I appreciate it.
Yes, I definitely will. And Jeanette, I want to make sure I've got your email right. Is it JEANNETTE.Bianco, BIANCO @AOL.com?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, that
Thanks.
binder is coming to you now, and then that other document I'm going to send to everybody here very shortly.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll throw a few other goodies, so to speak. I've got so I usually teach the Win with Sellers session of Ignite, and then I also usually teach the Win with Sellers. It's an all-day class. It's like it's a whole all-day class. So I have a whole folder that I have of different examples of things I use in my business that I'll share with you with sellers specifically. And that way you can kind of look over how to have some of these conversations ahead of time with your client, so it's not so awkward when you're in the middle of it. If you need
I'm sorry, you mentioned during the class that you have a lot of people who are interested in selling and they might not be ready to sell at that time, and maybe 3-6 months later that they end up actually listing and selling their property. Do you find that the methods that we've been using, like sending cards and sending messages, keeps them intact? Like, for example, my boyfriend, go talk to daddy right now. Mommy's still in class. Thank you. I'll be out in a minute. Please talk to daddy about it. Sorry. No, time is up. Bedtime is 8 o'clock. Please go up, step out of the office. I'm sorry. So So I was speaking to my boyfriend. He's a PA. He works at 5 different hospitals. So I said, "Oh, I'm gonna come once a month and bring something to eat, leave some business cards, stop at the different hospitals. Do you know anyone who's interested in, listing, buying, selling?" He's like, "Oh yeah, my coworker, she wants to sell a house, but I'm not so sure her husband's on board." And I was like, "Oh, great, give me her information."
Got it.
And then he's like, "Oh no, I don't want you to harass my coworkers." And I'm like, "Babe, if you don't give me that information,
I can't
she's
do
going to
anything.
use someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
She's not going to remember, oh, my coworker's girlfriend is a realtor." So I'm thinking, if I get her information, like, how likely are people really to contact you, after X amount of time has passed, or when they decide, oh, my husband is actually on board now?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. So so much of that right there has to do with you making the connection in the first place without any feeling that she needs to do anything, right? Like that you're literally just the whole purpose of you connecting is to connect and to build rapport and to get to know her. So almost in a sense, it's almost like building a new friendship, but you're building a professional friendship. It's like, hey, what's your boyfriend's name?
Shane.
James?
Shane.
Okay. So, like if Shane were to give you this lady's number, and you were to call her one day and maybe you leave a message, maybe you catch her live, but hey, so-and-so, James that you work with, he's my boy. You don't even have to say that, to be honest with you. You can say, hey, James that you work with, he shared your name and number with me because I've got a real estate, business that I run. And I'm just curious if you might have the chance to go out for coffee some morning, right? Like you're literally not asking for anything other than the connection. And it's going to take time to build that rapport and that reputation, but that listing is yours if you want it. And that's a mindset thing, right? I'm not going to live like this. I'm going to live like this, but I am going to connect with her, not harass. Connect.
Yeah. Just a second. Okay. Somebody take these kids. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Because
I just don't want him to feel like I'm going to harass these people. But you work at 5. We live in Atlanta. You work at 5 major hospitals, and you're floating. I need to be everywhere and meet all these people and your coworkers and leave snacks. Everybody loves to eat. They'll see the cards when they're there. And if they're interested in real estate, like they'll pick one up and like, hey, who's that? That's what I think. People like food.
People do like food. And the other thing with that is, I think just making sure your boyfriend knows that you're only going to lead with value, that like you recognize that this is a long-term play, that you're not trying to play short-term games. You're trying to play long-term games. And therefore you're trying to build your network. And if he has any leads for people who would be good for your network, then that would be really helpful. Like you can really help me out, and by the way, helping you out is helping us out, is helping this out, right? Whatever that looks like for you, And so I think just get him on board for thanks, Sedeka. Have a good night too. Get him on board for being your wing person and building your network. This isn't about you selling real estate right now. This is about you building your professional network. And that's how I would try to play that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions before we head out for the night? All right. I've got everyone's email who put it in. So I won't leave tonight before I send that over to you. And I had a good time with y'all. Thank you for everything. If you didn't get a chance to fill out the kwueval.com, I would greatly appreciate it. That's how I get to show KW University that I'm making progress. Speaking of, I saw someone say earlier their aha from today was when you said progress, not perfection. I'm like, yes, that's where we're all at. It's always progress. So thank you for those evals if you had a chance to do that. Cool. All right. Well, I think mostly ladies here. We might have, I don't want to make any assumptions about those names like Alicia that I don't have on camera, but good night, ladies. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks for being here. And also thank you for your commitment to yourself and your business. You're just getting started. So let's go make some progress. And I know you'll be back here tomorrow night. So have fun. I'll talk to you later, and feel free to reach out to me. My email, I didn't even put in. Well, you're going to get an email from me, so never mind. You'll have my email. If you want to reach me on Instagram, my handle is at Meg Fife Coaching. It's there in my name as well, at Meg Fife Coaching. If you want to connect, I love to connect with people there too. So, all right. See you guys. See ya. Have a good night.
Thank you.